I'm actually going to mute and turn my sound off just for now.
Okay.
Mr. Decker, I've just put you on mute until the chair, the mayor, gets to the point in the meeting where it's time to speak, and then you'll have to unmute yourself. Linda?
I'm here.
Are you 519-624-0802?
That's me.
I'll just rename you.
Do I sound clear now?
Yes.
Yes.
Good.
Even kijken hoe je de speakers ongeveer aanzet.
I see Mr. Martin is on. I've just renamed him so we can see that it's him. Just going to try to call Mr. Benson to see if he's having problems.
When we get to 7 o'clock, are you ready to go, Karen? Okay, thank you. Okay, my clock says 7 o'clock, so I think we'll get started with our Committee of Adjustment meeting this evening. For those of you members of the public who are joining us, when we get to the portion for public participation, we will open the floor and hear from you. In the meantime, we're just going to go through the appropriate process to get us there. So anybody joining us, watching in the public as well, the only people participating in the meeting from the public are those that have registered ahead of time, to simplify that during this process using the electronic format. So with that being said, I'll call the meeting to order and ask if there's any disclosure of pecuniary interest from committee members. I have none. Councillor McKay.
I do not.
Councillor Yates.
No.
Councillor Burke.
No.
Councillor Hearn.
No.
Okay, thank you. The next item up, we have the meetings from the previous, the minutes from the previous meeting. Committee of Adjustment, February 24th, 2020. And we have a recommendation, I'm going to say that's moved by Steve and seconded by Dan, that the Committee of Adjustment meeting minutes of February 24th, 2020, A02/20 and A03/20 be adopted as presented. Any questions or comments on those minutes?
I have none.
All those in favor then? That's carried. Thank you. We're now on to our first application for this evening. This is application A05/20. This is for Garrett Ryan and Janica Decker. The location of the subject property is described as Divisions 1 and 2, Lot 15, West Owen Sound Road, Geographic Township of Arthur, with a civic address of 9356 Highway 6. The subject land is approximately 40 hectares in size and is shown on the map that's attached to your agenda. Purpose and effect of the application is to provide relief from minimum side yard setback to a proposed bunker silo feed storage. The proposed variances will permit a reduced side yard setback of 4.5 meters, whereas the bylaw requires 18.3 meters for accessory building to an agricultural use. Other variances may be considered where deemed appropriate. How is notice given for this meeting?
Notices were mailed to property owners within 60 meters of the subject property, as well as to the applicable agencies. Signage was posted on the property on May 26, 2020.
Okay, thank you. Linda Redmond, I think you're on the phone with us. Could you run us through this application, please?
Thank you, Chair. So this application, as already stated, is to permit a 3 bunker style feed storage structure on the subject lands. They are zoned A1, and what that means is they're agriculture, and the 1 signifies a site-specific restriction from any livestock facilities. However, it does permit buildings that are accessory to the farming operation, which this would be considered. So it's zoned A1 and it's designated prime ag. They need relief from the setback, side yard setback to an accessory structure, which this is, whereas that requirement is 60 feet or 18.3 meters. They're proposing a 15-foot setback, the difference being 45 feet. We have no concerns with the request, and that's mostly because the feed is already stored in this location. This structure simply puts it inside of a walled area, so it's already occurring there. There's already you can see on the aerial. I don't know if that's up on the screen or not, but certainly on your laptops, I'm sure you can see the aerial where you can see where the feed is located there now. So they're just building this to house it. So we have no concerns with it, and given that there's no buildings or anything adjacent to where the setback reduction is occurring, we don't think there's minimal impact from that perspective as well.
Okay, thanks, Linda.
You're welcome.
Has any further correspondence been received in respect to this application?
Not other than what is listed on the agenda, which is a letter from Noah and Verna Martin with objections to the application.
Okay, thank you. So now is when we get to the public portion of the meeting. So I'll ask if there's any persons present who wish to make oral and/or written submissions in support of the proposed minor variance. So anyone wishing to speak in favor of this minor variance? Mr. Decker, I suspect you're going to want to do that. And right now you're muted. So we need to, if you want to speak, you're going to have to unmute yourself.
Yes.
So go ahead.
Okay. Well, yes. I think the lady that just spoke there, it's explained it already very well. We're just asking to put a concrete wall from 4 feet high, 15 feet away from the 15 feet away from the fence line there. The whole 4 feet wall will be backfilled with topsoil and seeded down with grass. So basically, from the highway off, you won't see any concrete walls there. I talked to the neighbor of me that owns the other side of the fence line, and he has no issues with it either, that I put up my feed storage there. So, and the way I build them right now, or I would like to build them that way, with the opening towards the southwest. That way, in the wintertime, the faces of the bunkers will stay pretty clean from snow and everything. So that way, I have not much issues either. Other than that, yeah, it's this way. I think it's ideally for me. I'm improving my feed storage that way. I improve my feed quality, and I think that the neighbors across the road have minimum impact of this. So. That's, I think, what I would like to say. I don't know if I have to say anything about the letter that came in from Noah Martin or not, but I can do that later on, or maybe you want to speak first, or?
You can speak now or later if you wish, but
yeah, I can say something about the concerns that Noah Martin has. So one of the things he's saying is like 15 feet is only a quarter of the required setback of 60 feet. And that they don't have enough room to cover those piles. Well, with 15 feet, my loader is 7 feet wide, so I can easily drive by there. The way I built the bunkers, I want to build the bunkers, there's only 5 feet between the bunkers, and that's enough room too, so I don't think that's an issue. Then about the manure pit, well, that issue does get addressed. With the normal farm protection board already, and due to the COVID, that has been delayed right now. Otherwise, the hearing would have been happened on May 25 and May 26. So that issue will get solved, I guess. And the minimum distance requirement for the barn, I think he has been misinformed there. Likely by Ken Benson, I'm not sure, but the barn does meet the requirement setbacks, so that's not an issue either. So yeah, that's, I think, what I want to say for so far.
Okay, thank you. Does anyone else wish to speak in favor of this application? Okay. Is there any persons present who wish to make oral and/or written submissions against the proposed minor variance? Anyone wish to speak against this variance?
Sorry.
Please speak.
Okay, so I have 2 people have pre-registered. Mr. Benson was going to speak on the phone, but I see he's on Zoom. Would you like to speak through the phone? You need to unmute yourself, Mr. Benson. Do you want to speak on Zoom or you want to speak through the phone?
On the phone.
Okay, so you've been unmuted.
So please go ahead.
Okay. Can I speak now?
And
Yes, you can.
I just want to say, Mr. Martin, you will be next, okay? All right, sorry about that. Go ahead.
Okay, my concern here, this farm property now is under investigation by the Normal Farm Practice Board because there is a illegal manure tank too close to 3 properties right now by over 200 feet. and I'm getting an odor from this. There is also an issue with the barn being too close to two properties now, and I have a letter from Daniel Ward, an engineer from OMAP, on March 4th, 2020, calculating that the barn should be where the barn is supposed to be, and it's too close to there's other our two properties by 70 feet. I don't know why. I can't figure why there's 98 acres on this farm, and everything has to be piled up near the neighbor's property. And I always thought before you applied for a minor variance, you weren't supposed to start work. But most of the work has been completed before a minor variance has been applied for. And why was there a building permit issued for this? I think I sent pictures to Steve McCabe and to Lisa Hearn showing what was going on there, and I think they were supposed to forward it on to the other counselors. I don't know if they did that or not.
Yes, I did.
And did the other counselors receive that?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. It seems to me this is just putting the cart before the horse. I thought you had to apply for minor variance before you do all this work, because there's already rebar sticking up where the walls are going to go. So it's only a matter of time whether you put four more walls up and it's all done. I didn't think that's the way we're supposed to do business in the township. I don't know. Anyways, I don't know why why would a building permit be issued for this, knowing that there was no minor variance applied for yet. So right now there's actually but two things against this property. It's with manure tank being too close to my property and two other properties, and I don't know what the reason is. This farm seems to have the advantage over everybody else of getting things that nobody else seems to have. I don't think that's right, anyways. So if somebody could explain to me why there's no why all this work was done with no minor variance, I would like to know.
Okay. Anything else, Mr. Benson?
Not right now.
Okay. In terms of some of your questions, I'll try to address a couple of them. In terms of the first bunker silo that's been built already, building permit was issued for it because it was in compliance with all of the zoning bylaw requirements. No building permit has been issued for the remaining bunker silo, and no building permit is required to pour a concrete slab. Just like someone paving a driveway, you can go ahead and pave or concrete a slab like that without the same restrictions as a structure. So once you put the walls on it, then it becomes a structure and requires a permit and the minor variance in this case.
Yeah,
And,
but can I answer you now, or do I have to wait to the end?
No, go ahead.
Well, how come there's rebar sticking up for the walls to continue then?
So
I know there's no law of pour. I know there's no law of pouring the pad, but what's the reason for the rebar always sticking up where the future walls are going to go? And once you put a wall on that pad, actually that whole pad becomes a bunker silo, doesn't it?
So to address
there's three walls already constructed. There's already 3 walls poured on there already. So once one wall is attached to that pad automatically becomes a bunker silo, doesn't it?
So I think I said a building permit has been issued for what's been constructed with walls. What hasn't been constructed was done so solely at the owner's risk. If the minor variance is not approved, then they can't construct the walls on it. A building permit will not be issued.
Is that always right, Andy? Is that always the way you do all the work first before you apply for minor variance?
That's not certainly what I would recommend to people, but if they do take the actions to do things on their own, they do take that risk.
But you're not supposed to do that, are you?
I wouldn't recommend it, but it's the owner has the right to take that risk.
You're not recommended, but you're not supposed to do that, aren't you? Like
There's no structure. The The issue becomes when a structure is created. When there's a structure created without a permit, then we would issue a stop order work. Until there's walls on that, it's not a structure requiring a permit.
Yeah, but there should have been no work done, and there should have been no work done until the minor variance was applied for to know where it's going. Right now, the way it's sitting now is there's, I sent pictures to you. Did you see those pictures? There's rebar already sticking up, so all he's got to do is put 4 walls up and he's done. So he's actually put the cart before the horse. And I don't think that's the way we're supposed to be doing business in the township.
Okay.
And you said that pad. You said that pad. We don't need the. You said that pad. We don't need a building permit. But why was the building inspector up and inspecting the pad when they poured it then?
I think the inspector would have to inspect the structure that's already built, the section with walls for certain.
No, he said, I talked to Darren Jones, and he said when they poured the pad that they had to come up and inspect it. So I don't know if you don't need a building permit for a pad, which I know you don't, why were they up inspecting the pad other than knowing that there was going to be a continuation of a pit fallow going on there?
Okay, I can't speak to that. I think your objection to the order of things is well noted. I'm not sure that we're going to gain anything going back and forth on details.
No, I'm not. I just kind of inquisitive. It doesn't. We're going back and forth, but it just don't make sense when you put all the stuff into put rebar sticking up for the walls already, and there's not even a minor variance, so it looks like it's cut and dried deal, isn't it? Anyways, that's why I see it. And when there's a minor variance, when there's a normal farm practice, investigation, should be no minor variance at all, because we don't know where the tank's going to end up, do we?
Your objection certainly is noted there, and I understand, you've been dealing with an odor issue, and that is before an existing tribunal. However, this is a separate issue.
It's not really separate because we don't know where the tank's going, do we?
No, we don't. But I think it would.
So if you give them a minor variance, and that could bugger up my normal farm practice when I'm trying to get this tank moved. It's actually the same deal, right?
So I think a good analogy that I would use in a situation like this is, if somebody is disputing a seatbelt ticket, they can still go buy a new car. And this is a separate issue. And I think we have to deal with it as 2 separate issues. And we know that the issue with the manure storage and the odor is before the normal farm practices board, and it has to remain there until that's resolved.
I see, yep.
Okay. Anything further, Mr. Benson?
No, not right now.
Okay, Mr. Martin, are you on the line?
I'm sorry, Mr. Martin hasn't come home from work yet.
Okay.
And I wish to remain silent.
Okay. Thank you for letting us know. Okay.
Mayor Lennox, I think
Yes.
Mr. Decker had his hand up again.
Okay. Mr. Decker, you're still muted, so if you could unmute yourself first.
Okay, yeah. So I think I can answer those questions from Ken Benson why the building inspector was here to inspect the pad. The pad has rebar in it too, to put those walls up for that first bunker silo. That's why he was here to inspect that. And that's all about it. And then about the manure pit, if the manure pit needs to be moved, it's not going to be moved closer to his property. It's going to be further away. So the bunkers are between the manure storage right now and his house, so that the bunk silos are not in the way for a new tank if the tank has to be moved.
Okay.
That's what I want to say. I think that's answering his question.
Okay, thank you. Anything further from anyone on the line?
Just let me unmute Mr. Benson.
Okay, but then when the building inspector there, I imagine he inspected the rest of the pad where the walls are going to go, wouldn't he? I don't know why they're inspecting something it's not even, hasn't been a building permit. Part of it was issued a building permit, but not the rest of it.
So my understanding is the inspection was on the portion that's already been constructed.
So they didn't inspect the rest of the pad there when they were there then for the rest of the walls.
I understand that they inspected the structure that's already been built.
Just
And
the one that was built then, right?
And what went into building it.
And one went into building, so nobody else inspected the other where the rebar is sticking up then when they were there then, I guess. So that's the idea? Because that's all they're supposed to be inspecting. When they came to inspect for the pit silo, eh?
All I can tell you is that the inspection that I'm aware of, Mr. Benson.
Okay, yep. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Anything further? Okay. So I guess we'll move on to comments or questions from the committee. Councilor McCabe.
I guess I just have a quick, maybe a couple of questions for Darren, if you didn't mind. And Mr. Benson brought it up that there's already an issue with this property, and I know it's separate from the minor variance. Is that normal? Sorry, is it normal practice for the normal farming practices board to hear a hearing, and can we still vote on this variance? Like, they've got they have to be tied together still, even though it's the same property. Or am I missing something, Darren?
Through you, Mr. Chair, the two items are not related as far as this application goes.
Okay. Okay, that's kind of it's kind of news, I guess. And I guess we kind of already talked about the rebar that's already there, and Ryan has put this up on his own risk, I suppose, to put the cart before the horse, so to speak. But I guess there's nothing really illegal like with that, as you mentioned, Mayor Lennox as well. He's done it at his own risk, and that's okay, so to speak, Darren, or?
That's right. Our zoning bylaw or the building code don't regulate concrete slab.
Okay. Okay, thank you. That's all I've got.
Thank you. Other committee members? Questions, comments? Sherry, go ahead.
Yeah, I just have a question. I can appreciate the fact that we want to keep all of everything within the bunker silos within the farm building cluster. But I sort of tend to agree with some of the comments that have been made either through letter or through phone conversation this evening. In the fact that this isn't really necessarily minor in nature. So is there any consideration, obviously not, because the pad's already been poured, but would there be consideration given to moving these silos to a different location on the property?
So who would you like to address that to Mr. Decker?
I'm gonna say yes, it's his property.
Okay. Mr. Decker, go ahead.
Yeah, I can answer that. I think what I'm stating already, at this point, we kind of buried the bunker silos in there so that they get the same elevation height as the tower silo. My tower silo is there by the beginning of my bunker silos. My protein bins are already there, so I got everything there together. Yes, I can move the bunkers even without a minor variance closer to the road, closer to the Bensons. But then I'm not be able to bury him in so that he doesn't see a concrete wall. Then I have to put them in the length with the highway, and then you get likely to get a 4 or 5 feet high wall, concrete wall, even above the highway. And then his view of the house, if he is out inside the side of using in his car or whatever, then he looks straight ahead to a concrete wall. And the other neighbors across the road as well, and I don't think he's going to appreciate that either. So this way, the bunkers house are very low. You still be able to look straight over it into the fields if he wants that. And yeah, what I'm saying, all my feed storage is already on this side of the property. That's why I like to build those bunkers there too. And it always has been there as well. So.
Okay. Anything further, Councillor Burke, at this point?
Not at this time.
Okay, Councillor Yates.
I just wanted to ask Mr. Decker, you understood the risk though, right? By doing.
Yes. Yep. But the thing with that is, one of the things with that is that the minor variance is kind of being delayed by the COVID. And the other thing is that the concrete guys are usually around this time of the year fairly busy. And I made a deal with the concrete guy that just because we're on Highway 6, we can still have full loads of concrete coming on Highway 6. So we put the concrete slab in the half load season. Plus the concrete has, for the first bunker, that needs to be made before the first cut came in, and the concrete has to be dried out, of course. So we kind of had to move on with that. And just because the neighbors south of me has totally no issues with it, with what I'm doing, I just moved on with putting the rebar in there. And I know that putting rebar in the concrete is nothing, I don't do anything illegal there. So, and I'm full aware that I take the own risk on that. Yeah, I'm fully understanding that.
Okay. Any other questions, Dan?
No.
Okay. Any other questions from the committee members?
I'm good.
I would just add a comment as well. I know that Mr. Decker has stored silage in that area for a number of years and on the ground for the most part, because he hasn't had a slab of concrete or walls. I know from a farming perspective that putting it on a concrete slab and in walls does help preserve the silage a whole lot better, which will actually reduce potential for offensive odors from the silage storage, plus make the feed quality much better. So there will be the opportunity for it to be a better storage than what he was currently doing for the neighboring properties as well. Any other questions or comments?
No.
Mr. Decker, you're muted still.
Yeah, so the other thing with it is that I'm building the bunkers and move my feed piles from the front corner of the farm here. I can just tidy up everything, and if you drive by, it just looks pretty neat here, I guess. And that's, I think the neighbors would appreciate that too, that we keep our lawn all tidy up, I guess, instead of having everything covered in mud and feed residues and whatever else. So I think that's a plus for the neighbors too.
Okay, thank you. Just one other question. I don't know who to direct this to, Karen or Darren, but the property adjacent where this variance is going, so the nearest neighbor's property line, that we haven't heard any objection from that property owner, have we?
No, we haven't heard any correspondence at all from that neighbor.
Okay, thank you. Any final questions or comments from the committee?
Can I say something?
Who have I got?
Kent Benson again.
Okay, Kent, go ahead.
Like this, you say this is two separate issues, but actually, I'm getting a smell off this pit tile too, okay? So it's not actually two separate issues. Like I'm already battling the problem now with the manure smell. Now this pit tile, this aren't pit tile, but it's smell off it.
Yeah, and my comment was that it wasn't that there would be no odor. My comment was that this pit silo should improve and reduce the risk of offensive odors from silage.
Yeah, but you're not living where I am, and you don't value it. Like I got an issue right now with farm practice. And now you're gonna, now there's a minor variance going on. So what goes on here? Like is this farm not applied by the rules? Like if I get smell off this pit tile, do I have to go to the normal farm practice board again?
There are no currently, other than distance to property line, restrictions on where a pit silo could be.
No, but if I get a smell off this manure tank, off this pit silo again, I'll just be fighting another battle, right?
So I'm going to try to finish this time with my comments, Mr. Benson, that the MDS formula that deals with barns and manure storage does not apply to concrete pit silos or tower silos or any other feed storage of any nature. What you choose to take to the normal farm practices board would be entirely at your discretion.
Yeah, I know that by now. I know that by now with dealing with the council. That's what I know now. Okay. But I don't think there should be no minor variance given when there's already an issue going on with the normal farm practice board. We don't know where the tank's going. We don't know where the tank's going yet. So if you guys give them a minor variance, you're trumping over top of the normal farm practice board. And I thought what I understood, the normal farm practice board is above you guys. But if you give a minor variance to this, and I have investigation going on with this, it's not very fair.
So, as you've alluded to, the issue with the manure storage is before the normal farm practices board. That's not an issue that we can wade into tonight. This is a separate application.
We're not wading into it. I'm just stating the fact there is something going on against this farm, and there shouldn't be no minor variance given this to this normal farm practice thing is cleared up first.
And I understand your position.
You must see my point. You must see my point. I don't know why not, but anyways.
Okay. So your objection is certainly noted. I think we've all heard it loud and clear. Okay, so now we need to move to a decision. So we need a mover and a seconder to either authorize or deny this. Anybody want to volunteer?
Sorry, and I didn't hear that.
So we're at the decision stage. We need a mover and a seconder to either authorize or deny this. We need and I'm calling for volunteers to do one or the other.
I guess, can I actually make a quick comment?
Certainly. Go ahead, Steve.
And I hope no one knows when the normal farming practices board is going to start back up again. And I don't like delaying farmers at all. And I know all about the quality of the silage and feed for the animals. But is there any harm in waiting a bit to see if and when a decision comes from the normal farm practicing board about the manure pit that's before them now, and then act on this? I know that might not be the best route for the Deckers, but should we deal with one thing first before we start another project?
So that is one of the options we can consider. I see your hand, Mr. Decker, but I'm going to go to Councillor Hearn first. Go ahead, Councillor Hearn.
Yeah, I do tend to agree with Councillor McCabe's comment
on that one. A wait and see approach might be more prudent.
Okay. So I think Mr. Decker wanted to comment on that, so I'm going to allow him to do that, and then we'll get back to the decision side of things. Go ahead, Mr. Decker. You're still muted there. You're still muted, Mr. Decker.
Yes. So, that issue with the manure tank, those bunkers are absolutely not in the way. If the manure tank has to be moved, it has to be moved further back. So there is no issues there that the normal farm that they're going to be in the way for the manure tank. If it needs to be moved, then it's going to be moved further back from the highway, and the bunkers are between the highway and the manure tank. So that's absolutely not going to be an issue. It's crop season. The crops are growing, so I like to start storing them there. And I would like certainly to finish those bunkers and not going to hold off. What I'm saying, the normal farm practice board, the hearing would have been scheduled for May 25 and May 26 already, but due to the COVID, has been delayed. So I think towards me that won't. I didn't make the mistake on that manure tank. So I think towards me, it absolutely won't be fair to set me back on this and start to be holding off everything. And I don't know when that hearing is going to be from the normal farm practice board. So it's two separate things. And what I'm saying, the bunker size absolutely won't be in the way if the manure tank needs to be moved. It has nothing to do with the normal farm protection board.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else want to comment on this? Sherry, go ahead.
Yeah, I don't think I agree with Councillor McCabe and Councillor Hearn's comments. I also don't think that it is prudent to ignore the issue with regards to the issue that's at the normal farm practice tribunal, a wait and see approach. So if we have to defer this matter for a little bit, I'm okay with that.
Okay. Anybody else? I would just add that I understand the concerns and the objections raised with regard to this. This is a very separate issue. I used the analogy earlier that if you were contesting a speeding ticket, you wouldn't be prohibited from buying a new car. I do understand that this is the issue around odor and the manure storage is in contention. It is before the tribunal. This is a different type of structure for a different type of purpose. And the minor variance is not inappropriate. Maybe the timing is it seems so, but it is appropriate to proceed with a variance at this time on this type of subject. If it were related to a manure storage or a barn, I would have a totally different view on it. So I still need a mover and a seconder to take some action, whether it be to approve, deny, or has been suggested to defer.
If we were to defer it, sorry, Andy.
Go ahead.
Can we put a time limit on it so it's not too intrusive and more of a hard, I don't want it obviously to be a hardship, but maybe just giving it a bit more time might help out a bit. I'm not saying years or anything like that, of course. I'm thinking maybe just delay it a month. It's still going to be good weather for pouring concrete, are the courts and stuff like that going to be open in phase of what the province is reopening up business-wise because of COVID? I'm not sure. And yeah, I guess that's kind of my thinking is just delay it a month, see what goes on with the province, and then and the hearing that's before the board right now.
So the answer to your question, Steve, is yes, we could set a time frame on it. I would be very cautious about recommending that, just because of the fact that we don't know, and it really is inappropriate for us to presuppose how long that normal farm practices process will take and what the outcome of that will be. And if that's the only reason that we're deferring, then I think you pretty much have to wait till the outcome of that is complete.
Right.
So at the risk of being repetitive, I still need a mover and a seconder to take some action here. We need to bring this to a resolution of some sort. Approval, denial, or has been suggested, deferral. Dan.
I'll move it, Andy.
Okay, do I have a seconder? Is this to approve, Dan?
No.
What are you moving then?
Moving to deny.
Moving to deny, okay. Do I have a seconder for denial? Councillor Burke, you're seconding that?
Yes, I will, and I'll just state that just because I don't think that this variance is minor in nature. I mean, a minor variance to me is, not a quarter of what is set out within our guidelines. So I don't think even a deferral is probably going to change my mind. So that's why I second what's on the floor.
Okay. So we've now got a motion on the floor to deny the application with a mover and a seconder, with the reason being that believe the application to not be minor in nature. Any discussion on that before we go to a vote? Okay, I'll call that to a vote then. All those in favor of denial? Those opposed to denial? That's lost, or it's
Defeated.
Yeah. Defeated, thank you. So now we're left with either approval or deferral. So I would need a mover and a seconder to either approve or defer. Steve.
Excuse me. I would move to defer this.
Okay. Did you want to set a time parameter around that?
I'm not sure I can, like you said. Go ahead, Karen. Yeah.
I want to
help us out here.
I want to ask a procedural question, and I'm not sure if Darren or Linda, if you defer, do you have to send notices out again within that time frame?
So Darren or Linda, can you help us with that?
So Linda here. If you defer, do you have to send notices out within that time frame? So do you have to recirculate a notice that the application is coming back to the committee?
That is what I'm asking, yes.
You are not required to do that.
Thank you. So that helps out with your timeline, Steve. If we had to meet Planning Act legislative time, it would matter in terms of what time you're going to put on it, but we don't have to recirculate that notice.
Yeah.
Okay. Do you want to add anything before I ask for a seconder, Steve?
I'm just trying to think of time-wise. I don't know. I know it's not the best. I don't want to deny him, obviously, the ability to build the bunk silo. Of course, I think maybe just waiting and to see whatever comes out and out of the board meeting. And if say it was a month or 2 months that we're waiting and nothing has gone on, then I think I would be in a position to say, like, okay, yeah, let's get the build going then. I just have to take a little kind of a wait and see approach, I guess.
Okay. Do we have a seconder for deferral then? Lisa, you'd like to second that?
Yes, I would.
And do you have any comments with regard to timing?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't want to hold them up too long, but yeah, I wish I had a crystal ball. A couple months.
Okay. Karen, go ahead, please.
So we need to know for sure that we've moved a motion to defer. If you're putting a time limit on it, we need to have that in the motion. Just for staff's understanding.
Steve?
Yeah, I'm fine with what Councillor Hearn has suggested doing a couple months.
So 60 days, is that what we're saying?
Sure, 60 days would work for me.
Okay. So we have a mover and a seconder to defer for 60 days or less?
Yeah, I guess depending on when the court's open again.
Okay.
If it's less time, sorry.
Right. Any discussion before we bring the motion to defer to a vote? Okay, I'll call the motion then. All those in favor of deferral as outlined? All those opposed? That's defeated. So we're left with one option, folks. And given the circumstances, I'll do the unusual step of making a motion that we authorize this minor variance. I still need a seconder for that.
I guess we have to have a seconder to get it on the floor to talk about it. So
we do, yes.
I'll second it just so we can, so it can be put on the floor.
Okay, so we have a motion to authorize. We've eliminated all the other options, so this is all we got left, folks. So any discussion before I call the vote? Steve?
And again, I just say to the Deckers, it's not that I want to not have this bunk silo built for them. I don't like people telling me what I can and can't do on my own property, and I'm sure everyone on this meeting probably has the same sentiments. But I think in order to get some of the things that are at issue here, or the perception of what's at issue, kind of dealt with, and that's why I was hoping that we could defer it, but I'm not sure what the right answer is, because I think everyone should be satisfied, and again, things being the way they are, we can't do anything with the normal farm practicing board. So I'm not really sure. Obviously I want them to get it built, but it just has a kind of a fishy smell to it right now. If we I know it's a separate issue and I understand that, but it'd be nice to get everything tidied up first and then go forward. At least that's my thinking.
Okay. Anybody else? So I would just comment that we've already run the gamut. We've defeated denying, we've defeated deferring. So unless there's support to move on with this, I'm not sure where that leaves us. I think it leaves us in a state of limbo that's very uncomfortable and awkward and difficult. So I just mention that to all members of council and the committee so that you're aware of the potential ramifications of not authorizing this now. Steve, go ahead.
And this might sound like a silly question, but so if we denied it and he can't apply for another exact same minor variance in the future, can he?
Well, we can't deny it now. I mean, we've voted on denial and it's been defeated.
Right, but I mean, if it doesn't go through right now.
I don't know where that leaves us from a legal perspective. I think in many ways it's already approved because of the fact that we've defeated deferral and denial. Procedurally, do you have any comment or insight into that, Karen?
I will defer that to Linda or Darren,
Okay.
who might have more experience in that.
Either of you, Darren or Linda, have any, can shed any light on that situation?
Can you repeat the question?
So we've defeated a motion to defer. We've defeated a motion to deny. We're back at a motion to authorize. If this doesn't carry, where does that leave us?
If it gets defeated as well?
Yes.
That's it. I don't know. I guess the applicant has the right to appeal a lack of decision.
So
on the grounds of lack of a decision, they can appeal. They can appeal to the board for that, or LPAT.
Right. So that it would be considered a non-decision then. Is that correct?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. Thank you, Linda.
You're welcome.
So there we are. It would be considered a non-decision subject to appeal. Any other comments? Steve, go ahead.
So through you, Mayor, and more to Karen, or maybe to Linda as well, for a little bit of clarification on that, for Mr. Decker to appeal, what kind of a time frame is that?
Yeah, I'll let Linda or Darren speak to that, but I'm pretty sure that OMB LPATs are not sitting at this point.
Mm-hmm.
That's correct.
I can maybe speak to that a little bit. Right now, regardless of what the decision we make tonight is, the appeal period wouldn't end until 20 days after the province's emergency order ends. So even if it was approved or denied tonight, the issue wouldn't be settled until after the emergency order is lifted by the province, and then 20 days after that. That's
okay.
Doesn't really deal with the situation now, but with any outcome tonight.
Okay, thank you, Darren. Any final questions or comments before I call the vote? Okay, I'm not seeing any, so I'm going to say, so now we're talking about, we have a motion on the floor to authorize this minor variance. So I'll call the motion. All those in favor? Opposed?
Got it.
It was your hand up, Steve?
Yes.
Okay, so that's defeated. Thank you.
Lisa?
So we have a non-decision.
Lisa, how did you vote, Lisa? She's from.
Oh, against.
Okay.
Okay. So it looks like we have no decision tonight, Mr. Decker and Mr. Benson and the Martin family. Thank you very much. I guess that means we don't have a decision, so there's no notice of decision to be sent out. So I guess that brings us to the end of this application. Thank you, everyone. We'll move on to our next application. This is application A06/20 for Bryce Switzer. So the location of the subject property is described as part lot 24, registered plan 60R 2314 part 1, and is municipally known as 310 John Street, Mount Forest. Geographic town of Mount Forest. The property is approximately 0.06 hectares in size, and the location is shown on the map in your agenda package. Purpose and effect of the application is to provide relief from the minimum rear yard setback for a proposed single detached dwelling. The proposed variances will permit a reduced rear yard setback of 5.9 meters, whereas the bylaw requires 7.6 meters. Other variances may be considered where deemed appropriate. How was notice given for this meeting?
Notices were mailed to property owners within 60 meters of the subject property, and as well to the applicable agencies. Signage was posted on the property on May 26, 2020.
Okay, thank you. Linda, can you bring us up to speed on this one?
Sure, through you, Chair. So this is an application before the committee to build a new home on this vacant parcel. As you can see, the land is somewhat, the property lines are not parallel, so they're asking for a bit of a reduction to the rear yard setback at the one corner of the house, but the rest of the rear yard can be met. So it's just a small section of the rear yard that doesn't meet the minimum setback, and it's pretty minor. The lands are zoned R2, which permits the single-family use, and it is designated in the central business district, but the zoning is more applicable in this case, so the use is permitted. So the request is to allow the single-family detached dwelling with a rear yard setback of 19.35 feet, whereas 24.9 feet is required. So a difference of 5.58 feet. We have no concerns with the request.
Okay, thank you, Linda. Has any further correspondence been received in respect to this application?
No further correspondence other than what is listed on the agenda, which were, I lost my spot now, 3 pieces of correspondence, none of who, from Wellington Source Water Protection and Saugeen Conservation, they had no objections.
Okay, thank you. Are there any persons present who wish to make oral and/or written submissions in support of the proposed minor variance? So is Mr. Switzer with us this evening?
He had called in to register, but I'm not seeing him as having called in.
So we have no registrants for this application at all then?
No.
Okay. So we don't have any persons present who wish to make written or oral submissions in favor of the application or opposed to the application.
Not that, that's correct. Not that pre-registered as they were instructed to do.
Okay. So that brings us to comments or questions from committee members. Anybody have any questions or comments with regard to this application?
Comment.
Steve, go ahead.
Sorry, I have no comment. Sorry.
Okay. Dan, did you have something?
No, just I'm in support of it.
Okay. Sherry, I saw you nodding. Were you?
I support it. It's a straightforward sort of minor variance. In the one corner, as Linda alluded to, they can't meet the requirements, so I support it.
Okay. Steve?
I guess I do have one comment, and it's in support of this, and I like the idea of this vacant lot becoming an infill. So I think it's going to be it's a great idea, and it's you know, throws up another house in a busy community that's growing. So.
Okay, thank you. Lisa, did you have anything you wanted to add?
No, totally support it.
Okay, so I guess that brings us to a decision. I need a mover and a seconder to, from what I'm hearing, authorize this. Moved by Steve, seconded by Sherry. Any further comments on this one? Okay, all those in favor of authorizing this? That's carried. Thank you. Any individuals on the circulation list will receive a copy of the notice of decision from this evening's meeting. And that brings us to adjournment, I believe. So I'm going to suggest that moved by Lisa, seconded by Dan, that we at the Committee of Adjustment meeting of June 8th, 2020 be adjourned at 7:59 p.m. All those in favor? That's carried. Thank you, everyone. We are adjourned.
Have a good night.
Right. Thank
you.
you.